Hello, I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. I wish I had a girl who looked...
G'day ballers and welcome to the SC Ballers podcast. My name's Jono, coach of the Half-Beans, and I'm feeling a little bit out of my depth tonight because I'm joined by a couple of very highly ranked guests to talk about all the big news coming out of Round 20 Team List Tuesday. First, I'm going to go by order of rank. The first man joining us tonight, he's the coach of the 6th ranked Supercoach team. He is a Nick Meaney, very proud owner, and he's a man who's been doing all the Supercoach circuits the last few days. It is the coach of Terrace Crew. Matt, how are you, mate?
Good, mate. Good. Thank you for having me. Very pleased to be in the guest chair tonight. Give you a trot out as captain. I'll stick to the VC, and hopefully my performance will be loop-worthy.
Tell us a bit about what's been going on, Matty. You've been going all around the ropes this week.
Mate, it's been great. We obviously got the Run Home Challenge launching at the moment. We got $7,000 worth of cash prizes that starts around 20 to 27. So great opportunity to get out there amongst the Supercoach community. Had a great time on Sunday night with the weekly Rubdown boys. Gee, they are a couple of loose units, but a lot of fun. And yeah, just back from Surrey Hills with Tommy Sangster on the official Supercoach podcast. So it's been a big few days, mate, but loving every minute and loving everyone jumping in the Run Home Challenge. We're up over nearly up to 1,000 now, which is a fantastic result.
Nice. With time still to join as well. Our second guest tonight is also very highly ranked. He's in the top 100. It's Fenno, first-time baller. How are you, mate?
I'm well, lads. Thanks for having me on. If Matty's the VC, I'm probably the 18th man, but happy to get a call up tonight.
AE. The AE.
Yeah, AE Nightmare. Yeah.
And Fenno, good to have a fellow Canberran on the show as well. Great to have you on board, mate. Tell us a little bit about yourself as a Supercoach player.
Yeah, I've pretty much been playing since day dot. I've got a couple of top 100 finishes before, heaps of top 1,000 finishes. So, yeah, pretty heavily into my Supercoach and keeps me busy during the week when I'm not at work.
Sorry, Jono. He is the original. I know you and Tubes have taken up the Sunday Snap mantle this year, but Fenno and his brother actually were the original Sunday night rap podcasters over on the Supercoach Champions feed for a few years there. So not only fellow Canberrans, but fellow Sunday podcasters as well. So I'm sure we're in for a good treat with Fenno. He's got a lot of wisdom to impart.
Yeah, looking forward to hearing his expertise. I'm sure Fenno probably heard that the Sunday Snap was coming on and didn't want to take us on. Just realised it's better to step aside and let the Snap boys
step away.
All right, well, let's start off, Matty. You already mentioned the Run Home Challenge. Obviously, that's the big thing coming out of Baller. That is closing at the end of Round 20. So you can join before this week, but it doesn't close until the end of Round 20. So if you're someone out there who has a huge score or one of your mates has a huge score, make sure you tell them about it and get them to jump on board. Matt, do you want to tell us a little bit more about the Run Home Challenge?
Yeah, mate. So $7,000 worth of cash prizes, $3,000 of the winner. We're paying all the way down to 10th. I did a little social media clip this year, this week, relating the chances of getting a prize in the Run Home Challenge to some more sort of interesting probabilities out there in the world. But yeah, it's a great opportunity. You don't have to have had a good Supercoach season, whether you're ranked 6th like myself or 106,000th. It does not matter. It just matters that you're still there trying. Everyone starts on 0. So you have to check the leaderboard at 0 at baller.live. You won't be able to see it on the Supercoach site. Free to enter, could not be easier. You just go and click a couple of links, sign up at baller.live, and it will take you and log you into the league at Supercoach. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We've done some great content so far. I know Tubes is fired up. And it's, I'm going to be, look, I know I'm kind of in the running for sort of top spots in Supercoach, but, mate, Run Home Challenge all day.
All right, well, Matt, you mentioned kind of the Run Home Challenge there. You and Tubes were actually on air. Podcast that came out on Monday, giving a little bit of a strategy for the Run Home Challenge. What can you tell us about that pod?
Mate, short, sharp, 15 minutes. We just got into the strength of schedule for the Run Home, who had the good draws, good fixtures, who had a tougher run, and just some more overarching considerations around restings and injuries and red flags on some key players, both pods and options to anti-pods. So it was good fun with Tubes. He was up and about. He also said he's really pumped for the Run Home Challenge. And yeah, mate, I'm just glad that it's finally here and we're ready to get stuck in.
Yeah, it's funny because I reckon for this run home challenge, like you guys sitting nice and firmly inside that top 100, I reckon it almost puts you at a disadvantage for the run home challenge because you guys are going to be so focused on protecting rank, staying up nice and high. It's the people down below who can maybe take a few more risks that you guys might be averse to at this time of year that could make the big difference. And I love that Tubes, who's ranked, I seriously think he might be around 30,000th now. Like it's getting that bad. But I love that he's just positioned himself as the face of the run home challenge. It's so good.
Yeah, the thing in poker, Jono, they call it a crapshoot. It's quick, and it's quick and dirty, and like you said, it's open to big swings. So if you do want to go for that big balls play, I think that's the type of super coach who's going to take home the run home challenge. So it's going to be, and we know that the run home throws up great opportunities for that. We saw Talatau Cooler a couple of years ago switch to fullback. Who will that player be this year? I hope it just continues to be Nick Meaney personally, but we'll see how we go.
As does Benno, a fellow Nick Meaney owner, yeah. We'll just want to give a quick update before the run home challenge starts. Let's have an update on the season-long baller league, the 5K league. And holding his spot at first is Justin, coach of Just All Good. He is number one ranked, third overall in Supercoach. And second on leaderboard is actually Matt himself, who's now come into sixth overall. I think he's mentioned himself on this podcast 3 or 4 times already, but I'll say it again, sixth overall for Matt. Matt, are you eligible to take out that season-long league if you win, or are you ineligible as a baller?
No, I'll be ineligible. So once I take that down, that will go to the second baller. Fenno right in contention. He is definitely eligible just because he's come on as a guest now. So he's right in there. Only about 100 odd points off. You're not eligible also, Jono, not threatening, but that's okay. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to winning it and then donating the prize to second.
Did you say I'm ineligible? Am I ineligible for the run home as well?
Well, we might sort you out with a little bonus.
You'd have to start paying me anything for there to be a bonus, Matt. But we'll talk about that off air. All right. And just a little plug, this Thursday there's going to be a watch-along for the Dolphins versus the Cowboys game. The watch-alongs have been great fun. I think this week it's Matty, myself and Tubes jumping on, and I'm really looking forward to it. A few very Supercoach relevant players, as well as some huge VC options in that game. So make sure you tune along. You'll see it on all the Ballers socials, some links to that coming out for Thursday night. Let's get into the thick of it now, fellas. I want to talk about the Baller Blueprint topic for this week, which is all going to be about nailing captaincy. Matt, I'm going to throw to you here. This is an area that you're pretty passionate about and that you're doing really well with this year. What can you tell us about this Baller Blueprint?
Yeah, so I thought it was a good opportunity, Jono, for us to touch on what you should be hoping your captains can average over the course of a season. And we spoke at length at the start of the year about how important the VC loop would be this year and like when we might think about using it. So I thought it would be a good idea, good time to check in with the contributors and how they've gone with their captains this year and how they've scored, and then also how many times we've used the loop to see if that has actually come true. And the results, I think, are pretty interesting.
Yeah, so looking at that, you yourself, Matt, have an overall captain average of 107.5 this year, which is absolutely insane. You've used the loop 4 times, 2 of which are on Nico Hines. So you've obviously, I'd say that's going to be a much higher average of loops than most people. Now, I don't necessarily that doesn't mean that you have more guts when it comes to Supercoach than most. I just think it means you're absolutely nailing your vice captaincy choices, being really clever. And I think all year you've spoken about you can't waste him. You can't take flies. And Blake was like, oh, he might score a few tries. You have to be really tactical. Fenno, on the other hand, he has, of the regular baller contributors, Fenno is actually beating all of us except for Matt. Fenno's captaincy average this year is 98. But unlike Matt, Fenno, you've only looped once. So you're bloody nailing it with your captaincy choices this year.
Yeah, I think what when I was targeting my captains early on, I pretty much looked at the matchup for the when I was looking to nail my captain. So sort of focusing on those high upside guys like Turbo, Cleary. I got Gutho's 130. The one time I did loop was on Payne Haas, that the week that he scored 140. So I threw the vice captain on him, and yeah, he barged over for that line break try, which was really good to see. But yeah, I think I just focused on great matchups and picking those guys that have got high upside, and yeah, got got done really well, I think, on that this year.
Yeah, that's interesting, Fenno, because I was going to ask with that high average if you'd been maybe playing it safe and picking on some of those big boy season, and then really just being selective when you throw it for that high upside player. But you're saying you've been going high upside pretty much the whole time.
Yep. So I looking through my captains, I think I've only picked the one person twice, and that was Paps. So I got 136 from him, then a 78. But outside that, I've gone Turbo, Gutho, Haas, Cleary. So and Drinky is the other big one that I got as well. The 130 from him. So yeah, not locking myself in picking the same high upside guy each week as well. So yeah, pretty much focusing on that matchup where I see most points coming in that game.
Matty, what did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I just think Fenno's point around matchup is so salient. Like matchups and fixture is everything when it comes to captain. And you cannot afford to take a flyer even on a good Supercoach gun. Like Scotty Drinkwater is probably the best example. If they're outsiders against, say, a Dogs at home now, or the Storm away is another good example. Like Scotty Drink is such a good player and a good Supercoach asset that he can score well against anyone, but the probability of him scoring well in those fixtures is just a lot lower. So I think you really want to get guys with good matchups who you know are going to have a bit of a flaw behind them because their team is so likely to win. And you just really have to, if they don't have the matchup, even if they are an essential, like a really, really great asset who you've got no thoughts of trading out, you just can't take that on as a captain option. You obviously you can still have them in your team and you can still target them even if they've got tough fixtures. But captaincy, it's all about upside and it's all about fixtures from my perspective, and that's really how I've approached it this year.
Yeah, it's obviously worked. Matt, what are your thoughts on then? You mentioned Drinky as an example. He's going to be a popular VC option this week against the Dolphins in that first game of the round. Like you said about not doing it when they're an outsider. Is that a close enough matchup that you think people could still consider Drinky, or is even that too much of an outsider?
No, so they're slight outsiders this week. The other thing I would take into consideration there is kind of the high scoringness of the game, and that's a game with quite a high total points line. So that'll be about 49.5 or 50.5. So the expectation on the Cows to score points is still there. It's flirting with it though, Jono. So they are underdogs to win that game. But it's within the realms that they could win and still could score very well. I'm more worried about Jackson Purdue for Drinky specifically to this week.
Yeah. Fenno, I'm someone who has used, and for the record, my captaincy average is significantly lower than you two. I'm at 90.2 for the year. So I've obviously not been getting my decisions well enough in that space. I think a lot of that, I was pretty stubborn and used Kalen Ponga a few times earlier in the year when I thought I just kept waiting for him to come good, which was so dumb in hindsight. But I have used the big boy season mindset a little bit. I've chucked it on guys like Terrell May and Payne Haas a couple of times. Fenno, as we come into this run-home challenges, as some teams start to give up, a few blowout scores come into play, do you think the big boy season mentality is just dead and buried now?
Yeah, I really do. The only exception to that's probably Payne Haas because he's just a genetic freak. If there's a matchup where there's a team that's horrible through the middle, I wouldn't be afraid to chuck a VC or C on him. I know Broncos fixtures on the way home are pretty good, so he's probably the exception. Terrell May looks like last week was the first time he's started to look like he's slowing down a little bit. His minutes were down as well. I think he only played 64 minutes last week. The lowest minutes since like round 1 or 2. So yeah, Payne Haas is probably the exception, but yeah, for the most part, I think I've gone away from the big boy season in terms of captaincy.
Matt, did you have anything else on this topic before we move into our positional analysis?
I would just say to add to what Fenno had to say about that Payne Haas is the only one. I think you still need you got to have your ducks in a row with Haas, so you've got to be certain that he's not carrying an injury. And you've got to be certain that the minutes are going to be there. So is he a chance of being rested? Because these big boys we're getting to the back end of the season now. Like there's every chance if they've got games wrapped up that Madge or whoever might give him a bit of a spell. So that's just another risk with captaining those guys. And I think it's just a bit of a conservative option. And I'm still a big advocate for using the VC where possible. Like I've obviously looped 4 times, which is relatively a big amount. It is going to be tougher, much tougher to loop though now, given that we've sort of got through that bye period and you might have an AE or two that are a bit trickier, and you don't want to have to drop a gun, and that's the big thing now. So we're talking about sitting guys like Tarpany or Tino or Garrick or Marky Mark, like that's just in your normal 18. If you vice captain loop, then you've got to go to the next one down to sit, and then you get an AE. So it's really, really hard to do the vice captaincy loop at this time of the year. So, going with those bit more rock solid, high upside, great matchup options is going to be critical.
Yeah, I'll just add one. Sorry, I'll just add one more thing that I kind of did last week. I had the option to trade out some guys that are on the bye, like Hosking and Taps, but I chose to trade out Savala and Sandon Smith because of that AE risk going down in the future. So I've kind of tried to get rid of some of that dead weight out of my team. If I did want to enact the loop on the run home, my bench is a lot stronger. So it gives me more of an option to use a loop if I get a decent VC score.
Yeah, I agree, Fendo. That's where that squad depth mentality can sometimes come back to bite you if you're carrying players who could affect your ability to loop, especially as, like Matt mentioned, you've got so many guns, you don't want to drop a gun and then have, a 20 come into your squad, especially when there's HIAs and all kinds of things that can happen. I just want to give a quick shout out as well to Tubes, the face of the Run Home Challenge, whose overall captaincy average for the year is just sitting over 80. So well done, Tubes. Might say a long ways to why the season's gone the way that it has. All right, fellas, let's get into our positional analysis for Teamless Tuesday now. Some big news coming out of Teamless Tuesday that we will touch upon. One of the big talking points was at fullback, which is our first position. Ryan Papenhuyzen not named. So he's quickly being sold by the masses. He's already up over 13.5% sold. Are you boys Pappy owners, or have you guys already sold? Fen, I'll start with you.
I sold last week. I moved him to Nick Meaney last week with the low BE, and just the uncertainty around his injury, I just wasn't keen to hold him. And numbers were limited last week, so yeah, I made the move to Meaney and hoping that he'd keep that fullback spot for another couple of weeks, which is at least he's got for this week. So yeah, I was pretty happy to sell last week, and I was pretty happy to sell.
Matt, what about you?
Yeah, I sold last week as well. I sold to Cleary. I had a bit of a nightmare, Jono, as you know, on the weekend. I brought in Cleary for Paps, having tried to trade Cleary out before his match to Jayden Campbell, only for the Supercoach app to fail me and me fail myself, let's be honest. So Paps is gone. I bought Nick Meaney the week before for his 165. I'm ecstatic to see him named at fullback. Who knows where Paps is? Like, this has dragged on too far now. I think we have to assume that the Storm aren't telling us what's wrong with him. And for him not to be in the 22 at all just doesn't tell us anything about it further. So, it could mean he's out for another 6 weeks. It could mean that they're just going, we're just writing him off this week and he'll be good to go next week. Either way, the big question for me, Jono, is do you now sell Papenhuyzen and can you buy Nick Meaney? Like it's obviously we can chat more about Meaney at centre wing, but it's all related. So these are really big conundrums for Papenhuyzen owners still.
Yeah, it is tough. I think a case can also be made if Papenhuyzen's back next week, if more news comes out, it's almost like a good pod hold because so many people are selling. Could you get Papenhuyzen at a much lower ownership than what he should be? I mean, for me, Matt, I'm the only one of the three of us who still own. I was trading him out this week, whether he was playing or not. I don't expect him to come back and goal kick because with a lower leg injury, when they've got a really capable kicker in Nick Meaney, I don't see why even when he does return, you'd risk the goal kicking with him when you've got someone there doing such a good job. I know it's probably music to both of your ears.
We don't even know what he's. He might have a bloody eardrum injury for all we know. Like it's just impossible to know. It's impossible to know what's wrong with him. I think you're right to sell, no matter what. I think there's way too much uncertainty, and I think you need to have guns in the big five positions: 2 at halfback, 2 at fullback, and 1 in the flex. I don't think you can afford to be carrying a player that could be out for who knows the rest of the season.
Fernand, do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, their head-to-head finals draw is actually really bad as well. So they've got Penrith, Bulldogs, Roosters, and Broncos to finish the season. Yep. So
good shout.
I think there's better options to have in your fullback or flex spot, even when he does come back.
All right, well, let's start to talk about some of those options then, because the most popular one coming in this week that it seems that people are jumping to is Dylan Edwards. He's currently being brought in by around 10% of the top 10%. Matt, you're not so confident that Dylan Edwards is going to be goal kicking, and I think that's why a lot of people are bringing him in. What are your thoughts on that?
I just think we have no idea. Alamotti kicked last year when they both played. Edwards kicked when Cleary was out. Edwards was never a noted goal kicker. He kind of just started doing it one week while Cleary was out at some point last year. I love goal kicking Edwards with no Cleary in the team. Like, I think he's a top 2 or 3 fullback in that role. But the goal kicking does impact it, and and we know that he won't be goal kicking. Well, we would presume that Cleary will be good to come back and goal kick in a couple of weeks. So yeah, if we get word that he is goal kicking, then I think that makes him a much more appealing. But it's an undoubtedly great matchup this week, and he's got 2 more good games after this. So I don't think you can go too wrong bringing Edwards in.
Fenno, what are your thoughts on Dylan Edwards?
Yeah, I'm a bit in Matty's camp. I think the uncertainty of whether he goal kicks or not sort of turns me off him a little bit. If we would get that confirmation that he was going to goal kick, that's a totally different conversation. I think it's just the fact that we don't know that. But if we do get word that he is goal kicking, yeah, he becomes a genuine option. But yeah, I'm with Matty. I think there's better options out there if he's not goal kicking and Alamott's got the tee.
Yeah, I can understand if he's goal kicking this week why people are doing it. Fairly easy matchup against the Rabbitohs, who are conceding a lot of real life points and super coach points. But I tend to lean towards your thoughts, fellas, where it's a bit of short-term glory, I think, in terms of getting Edwards now. I don't think it's the right move for the rest of your season, and I would encourage people not to do it. One of those options is the Rabbitohs fullback. Sorry, Matt, did you have something you want to add before we move off Edwards?
I was just going to say, Jono, on the short-termisms, it could be a great way to, cracking way to get your run-home challenge off the mark. So if you are of that mind, and I know there will be a lot of listeners will be, Tubes, I'm sure, is all over it. I've already spoken to the podfather. He's very keen on Dylan Edwards. So, yeah, it could be a good way to start off the run-home challenge.
Trell Mitt, we're going to speak about in depth in a later segment. I've got my eye on Trell. But the other popular one this week that's going to be well discussed is Tommy Turbo, who has a bit of a tough matchup this week versus the Storm. Fenno, what are your Tommy Turbo thoughts? Have you owned him or been burnt by him previously this year?
Yeah, twice. I've been burnt not once but twice by him this year. So I as a person that doesn't own him, I couldn't go near him. But I think if you currently own him, he's a hold. He's got a negative BE. I know the matchups are tough for the next few weeks, but he's looking a lot better at centre, I think. And he's bringing back some of that combination he had with Garrick a few years ago, which looks really, really good. So I think if you're a Turbo owner, you hold, but I wouldn't be buying him if I didn't own. I just not this stage anyway. I think maybe head-to-head finals you could look at him, but the next few weeks I think there's better options you can bring in because the matchups are really tough.
Fenno, I'm completely with you on that one. Matt, what do you think about Turbo?
He's a borderline sell if you own him. Couldn't possibly bring him in.
Ooh. Negative break even.
Like I said, Jono, I'm just so big that you need your big 5 firing, and I hate the matchups. I think that Cleary being out probably kills him as a sell. But and Pap's obviously out as well. So, but I don't like it as a buy. I get that he's got the negative break even. I don't think that he's the right option for now. I will be having a look at him later in the season. I'm just looking now. I've actually sold Turbo 3 times, I think, this season. No, it must be twice, at least twice. But yeah, I'm not really ready to get on the roller coaster again yet.
All right, well, let's swiftly move on to centre wing, where there is plenty to discuss. At this point, the most purchased centre wing option is Zach Lomax, who's been brought in by nearly 10% of the top 10%. That'll take his ownership to over 50% of that top 10%. They have a pretty tough matchup, Fenno, this week versus the Raiders. Do you think he's still a good option for non-owners to buy right now for this run home?
I saw a few concerning things with him last week. I think coming out of that Origin game where he didn't play well, there was a couple of plays during the game against Penrith where he kind of dropped his head. The one I'm thinking of is where he bombed the try and he kind of just stopped in the play and Penrith made a bit of a line break. So that concerns me a little bit. Obviously his floor's exceptional. he's still trying, like he's still contesting those bombs, and he's the main focal point of their attack. Look, I probably wouldn't be buying if I didn't own. I think I'd probably look at someone like a Gagai as a bit of a pod option in that position. But I think if you own, he's an easy play each week, given his floor. And he'll look a lot better when Moses is back in the team as well.
Yeah, I think Moses will make a big difference. Matty, what do you reckon? Lomax hold but not buy?
Definite hold. I think he's still a buy. Baller projections have still got him as the second top, even with this difficult draw, still the second top centre wing for the run home from round 20 to 27, only behind Herbie. And we got Zach averaging 80 points projected for the run home. That just speaks to his work rate, goal kicking floor. And with Moses back, we'll see that upside, I think. I would still be prioritising Lomax over most others, unless you wanted to go that pod option like a Gagai. But I'm Lomax ahead of Kiraz, Garrick, Toto, all of those guys.
Yeah, Lomax is one of the few players who I would put down as a must-have in that centre wing position. He scares me not to own. Fenno, for the record, I agree with everything you said about the confidence. I spoke about that on the snap as well. He's a real confidence player, but his base is just so good. His goal kicking on the wing, he'll finish plenty of tries, I think. So I think he's a bit of a must-have for me. One who isn't being brought in as widely is Val Holmes, who's a really similar price to Zach Lomax. I think it's 712K versus 709K, so not much in it at all. I really like him as an option. I think he's being under-owned at the moment, doing less than 20% of Supercoach teams. Matt, I put to you earlier in the week that I think you should try and bring in Val, because I know the guy who's sitting up at first doesn't have him. I was trying to push you as like, he might be a good point of difference for you to have against that guy. You quickly wrote back, I am not interested in Val. What's your thought process?
My thought process is that Val's base plus power sits in the high 40s range. When we're talking about guys in the more elite level, they're more in the low 60s. So he's got a lot to make up in attack just there alone. Now, his proportion of attack that he gets for his team is high. So on a relative basis, he gets a lot of attack for the Dragons. The problem is that I think the Dragons have a very, very difficult run home from a matchup perspective, and I just can't trust him to get that attack every week. I would be surprised to see Val do well. It's just, I'm not, if he was 600K, different conversation. 710K, I think that's a pretty easy lay for me. I get what you're saying about the guy in first doesn't have him. I'm honestly, John, I'm just going to play my own game. I'm going to try and score as many points as I can. And if that's good enough, it's good enough. And if it's not, it's not.
Fenno, are you a Val Holmes owner?
I'm not, and I am a Dragon supporter. I kind of tend to agree with Matty a little bit. I think our fixtures on the way home are quite difficult. And while he's the focal point of our attack, how much points are we going to score in those games is what worries me. And obviously Matty was saying that his base plus power is a bit lower than the other centre wings, which, I'd definitely prefer a Lomax over Val. I'd be prioritising Val, Lomax over Val, sorry. My centre wing's really stacked, so I can't fit him in. But I'm not. I don't think I'll be scared watching him. I think I don't see him banging out a 130 or something like that. So I'm pretty happy to watch him go by the wayside.
What about Brian Toto, Fenno, as a real pot option? Obviously, he's one of the great premium players in all of Supercoach. Could you be tempted by him at all?
I certainly could, given their draw. Defeat. He pretty much carried New South Wales in Origin on one leg, which was, pretty awesome to see. I've got a Sarko who I'm not overly keen on playing each week, so he's a potential one I'm looking at moving towards Brian Toto as a bit of a pot option. Obviously Penrith's fixtures over the next few weeks are exceptional, so that's something I will look at this week. The injury scares me a little bit.
Matt, what about you for Brian Toto?
Yeah, I just want to ask Fenno a question on Toto. That with the injury, would you want to see it a week, or would you be prepared? I think there's been a lot of success this year where guys coming back from injury, where if you go and the week they come back, then they score well, then that's given you the jump on the field a bit.
I'm 100% on that. I think if I was going to get him, I'd get him this week and try and get ahead of the people that want to watch him. there'll be concerns because he was rested after last week. I think the masses would jump to him if he bangs out 100 score this week. He'll be one of the most traded players in the following week. So yeah, I like that idea of going early and trying to get ahead of the curb there.
Yeah, and Fenno, you mentioned about that good run home. Penrith have a tremendous run home. Like it's I think the second easiest of any team in the comp, and he's at 610k. So I think there's a lot of positives there. I just didn't like when I saw him trying to stretch out in Origin 3. Like I thought there were so many times he had a great game. Don't get me wrong; it was gutsy, tough carries. But when he was trying to go full sprint down the wing, I just didn't love what I saw, and I think it's enough to put me off him. I like Dane Gagai at a cheaper price. Dane Gagai, who did play fullback on the weekend for 104 points. He's been named at fullback again this week. Adam O'Brien has said that he's their fullback for the foreseeable future. I think there's a lot of narrative stuff that works in Gagai's favour. He's the captain. He's playing for a contract next year. He's playing fullback. I think there's so much that are ticking boxes for him. I'm getting him this week. He's coming in to my team, and I'm really excited to do that. He's going to be my Dylan Lucas replacement. Fenno, you mentioned that you are interested in Gagai yourself. Am I looking too much into narrative, or is there a bit actually there?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot there. Like you just touched on, he's going to be the focal point of their attack now with Fletcher Sharp out, no Ponga for the rest of the season. The one big thing that concerns me with him is just the Newcastle Knights. They've got so many players out. And while they've been pretty good defensively this year, I just worry how many more games they're going to win and how many attacking stats he's going to get. So that's the one thing that turns me off him a little bit. Whereas with a Briton To'o and Penrith's fixtures, I think I prefer him. I think there's more upside in him. I think he'll bang out bigger scores. But yeah, I don't hate Gagai, and he's probably going to be lower owned than Briton To'o as well.
Yeah, it's only 2% of the top 10% are bringing him in at present. Matt, give me some cold, hard stats. What are the baller projections saying about Gagai?
Mate, I've had to go in and actually turn a few knobs on Gagai down because the model loves him so much. We've got him projected now to be the third highest centre wing for the run home, only behind Herbie and Lomax. So that's without the goal kicking. So if he was to pick the goal kicking back up, he'd go to the top. So his base power there is excellent. We know his propensity to be able to bust a tackle coming from the back as well. If he is running that sweep. We bake in all the draw, the strength of schedule stuff. So I think as a pod option, I really like it as a flyer. I just don't really have a spot for him, unfortunately.
All right, I think I'm sold. I hope those baller projections come good, Matt, because I'm 100% bringing him in. I like it. Another one who is quite popular, not as popular as I think he should be this week, is the one that both of you guys own. It's Nick Meaney. Fenno, for all of us non-owners out there, which is the majority of people listening to this podcast, why is Nick Meaney still a buy?
Because he's playing fullback for the Melbourne Storm. I think that's the big tick in my opinion. When they're on, they're on. There's no better team to watch when they're on. He looked so good in that game against the Cowboys. I was watching the game with my eyes closed, because I knew Matty had brought him in, and I was actually pretty much level with him at that stage. And yeah, I ended up hiding behind the couch after he scored his second try. And yeah, he looks exceptional at the back. And I don't think the Storm have any need to rush Papenhuyzen back. So if he's got that fullback spot for another couple of weeks, and the goal kicking as well, he could be the top scoring centre wing over the next couple of weeks. So pretty happy I got on last week. You could still buy him this week. He's still at a low BE. But yeah, I think with the uncertainty of Papenhuyzen's injury, I'm not sure I'd get him this week, but he's not the worst. I think I'd preference people like To'o or Gagai over him. And it also depends how many Storm players you got as well. So they'll look at resting players over the run home, I think. So if you've got 4 or 5 Storm players and you're bringing in a Meaney on top of that, I think that's probably a few too many.
Matt, I'm not going to throw to you for Nick Meaney because the way your face lit up made me feel physically ill. And you've had enough to say about Nick Meaney over the last couple of weeks.
I've just got a warning for prospective buyers,
okay.
Jono.
Go.
I think there's just a bit of a difference between taking a flyer at in the 400s and purchasing him at 573 with uncertainty. And this is not me just saying to keep everyone off him. It's just you got to know what you're in for here. Like he's going to be a great play this week. If he doesn't, he's going to be, you can't play when he plays center. He can't be in your 18. it could be a trade. If you're low on trades, it just depends how much you want to risk it. If we do get news about Paps is out for another, I would say if he's out for 2 to 3 weeks, then yes, okay, you know what you're signing up for. Get him in, try and get a flyer. The other thing with buying him is you're never really gonna like the opportunity for vice captaincy is probably over, and you're never gonna captain him. So it's a little bit tricky from that perspective as well.
All right, fellas, we're 35 minutes in the podcast. We're still at centre wing, so I'm going to try and go rapid fire through a couple of them. A couple of last premiums. Fenno, I'm going to give you Jacob Kiraz. He is well owned. For those who don't, should they still get him?
Yes. Yeah, I actually captained Jacob Kiraz last week, which was a little disappointing. I vice-captained Teddy. When I saw he finished the game on 70-odd points, I thought there might have been a little bit more upside with Kiraz given the matchup against the Cows, but it didn't eventuate. But he still scored 53 in a really poor game. Like, he had a couple of errors. He gave away a penalty as well. He still will have several offloads. I think with Galvin back in the team, and if they stick with that halves pairing of Galvin and Burton going home, I think they're going to look a lot better and there'll be a lot more tries coming for him. So, yeah, I'd still be getting Kiraz in.
Matt, the other one is Ruben Garrick, who's very well owned. I said pre-pod in the green room about how I was sitting Beau Fermor and was tempted to actually play him over Ruben Garrick this week. Is there any merit in an anti-pod play in Ruben Garrick, Matt, as a sell?
No, don't sell. I wouldn't buy him now with this run they've got coming up, but I wouldn't sell him either. He is a sit option this week if you've got a deep squad. Baller projection of 62, which is on the low side. The only problem with someone like Garrick is he's got such high upside that you're terrified anytime you sit him. So you just got to take that into a bit of consideration. Goal kicking, if Manly were to win the game, he could easily go 100 plus. But we're getting to the nitty gritty now, and it's a terrible matchup, Storm away. Even though we have seen Storm leak a few points, still think it's more likely than not that it's not one of Ruben's better games for the year.
He is running at Kane Bradley, though, as Fenno pointed out to me pre-pod, which could be. Katarapani, I don't think we have to speak about him too much. He's very well sold. I think it's a team-dependent one, Matt. There's the words I hate to say, but it is team-dependent. If you have someone you can sell him... I think it's fine to sell. I disagree. I think if you have the right person to sell him
You're kidding, Jono. You're kidding.
Why?
Because they play Parramatta and Souths next to. Sorry, Fenno.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in. I own Karapani and Asako, and I'm considering holding Karapani over Asako just because of the fixtures on the way home. I think he's more playable than Asako in some of those games, and he still looks really good.
I'm terrified of Karapani, like as a non-owner. Like he could easily turn up in those games in the next couple of weeks. If I owned him, there is absolutely no way I would sell him.
I don't know. I think it's fine. I think it's fine for people to sell because, Matt, with all that being said, I don't know when I'm playing him. Like, he's got easy matchups. I'm still not going to pick him over these premium guys that I have in my team. So if you have a premium guy, if you have the money to get him up, like I know some people this week were planning on doing Katapani to Cleary. Fenno, I think you were contemplating that yourself. Like, if you can get him to a legitimate gun, I think do it because I think it's going to be hard to play him even when they do have those good matchups. The reason I'm personally holding Karapani is that I like that if there are teams resting at the end of the year, I think he's a good depth man who can get a big score. So that's why I'm personally holding, but I think he's fine to sell. Jermaine Asako, a sell, you think, potentially, Fenno?
Yeah, I'm looking at selling him. The number of injuries for the Dolphins is just stacking up each week. Like, it seems like they're losing one or two players every week. And he's just not scoring a lot of tries this year. A lot of the attacks going through Herbie Farnworth, who I own as well. So I'm not sure I feel comfortable playing two Dolphins each week. So I'm looking at potentially selling him over Karapani. I can do a little bit more with his money because he's still 650K. I think his break-even's over 100 this week. So he's potentially one I may sell over Karapani to give me a little bit more cash in the back to do a few different moves. So, yeah, that's just one thing I'm looking at. I'm just not sure how much I'd play him on the way run home.
Bang. Well, that is a comprehensive breakdown of what I think is the most interesting position in Supercoach. There are so many different ways you could go. Let's get to 5-8, where there might not be as many people making trades, but there are some good sneaky options out there. Matty, Tanah Boyd had a really good debut game last week. I'm seeing a few people are doing the LKT kind of slight downgrade move to Tanah Boyd to get a more reliable number. Do you think that's a good option?
I talked about Tanah Boyd at length on the at relative length on the Supercoach official podcast earlier, Jono, and I mentioned a stat where last year in 80-minute games he scored under 31 points 5 times. So you can never ever play him in your 18. And if you are going to bring him in for that downgrade, you're only making like 50K or something on that downgrade. You're going to want to make that cash working double overtime that you've freed up. I just don't see it being worth the trade personally, because you're not going to trade him in and then trade him back out, so it's not a cash cow situation. I hate the Boyd buy. I'm fired up tonight, aren't I?
Yeah, you are. You're coming off the back of got to your head this Sangster pod you're on today. I think it's kind of got to your head. You think you're a big personality now, like the Alan Jones of Supercoach. Fenno, you are a Canberran. I'm sure you've been out to GIO Stadium and seen the kind of excitement that Kaeo Weeks can bring. Do you think he's a really good wild card option?
I think if you're flush on trades, he is. Yeah, look, he's the type of player that can go 150 one week and then go 30 the next. Look, I'm not keen on him. I have limited trades left, so, and I've got 3 Raiders, and I don't really want a 4th one to come in. So yeah, I think, if you need I think he's around a similar price to Jayden Campbell, and I much prefer Jayden Campbell as a buy with the goal kicking. I'm not overly keen on Kaeo Weeks. I think that big score he goes against the Dragons is probably, I think he'll score decent on the way home, but I think that big 150 might be been and gone.
All right. You mentioned Jayden Campbell there. I just think he's at 537K now. That is so cheap for Jayden Campbell. I think he's absolute value. To me, he's the clear number 1 5'8" option. Matt, I've said to you before, I want you to win the whole Supercoach this year. He's so well ranked. He'd be a great footballer. You don't own Jayden Campbell, and I'm desperate for you to own him. Are you going to bring him in this week?
I'm going to strongly consider liking King Tongia to Jayden Campbell. I've got plenty of cash in the bank, over $500,000, so pretty easy move to make. I agree, John. I think he's the clear number 1 5'8". We've got him projected 72 average at baller for the run home. That's 7 points clear of both Munster and Blaize Talagi. I will say that if you are already a Jayden Campbell owner, I would avoid at almost all cost making a trade at 5'8". For your second 5'8". I think it's a waste. And I think you can, if you've got someone who can play, and that you're really only going to be desperate if Campbell goes down and you've got no trades left in the last few rounds. But I'm a Munster owner. I can't see any value in purchasing Munster as a buy. I'd be more than happy just to run home with Campbell, but I think Campbell's the one who can hurt me.
Yeah, I agree on Munster. I have nothing to add there, Fenno, unless you have some strong thoughts. I think he's a clear, if you own, you own. You're not going to sell, you're not going to buy. Do you agree with that on Munster?
100%. I own Munster and Campbell, and I've pretty much had that combination since early in the season. So, I think Campbell's a clear number 1 for me as well.
What about Lachie Galvin, Fenno? Because I know you actually thought about making him your pot of the week. You've gone with an option that I really like in the end. We'll get to that later. Do you think there's any interest in Galvin? He's obviously the starting halfback now for the Doggies.
Yeah, look, I don't. If you can't get up to Jayden Campbell, I don't mind him at a cost price. I think throughout Serrato's made his decision. He's made his bed now. I think Galvin will be the halfback for the remainder of the season. So I think if cash is an issue and you can't get up to Jayden Campbell, I think he's a viable option. I think that combination with him and Burton will get better as the season goes on. You may not have to play him every week. Like you may not want to play two 5'8" every week. So there might be some weeks where you want to play 2 or 3 centre wings on your bench. So yeah, if cash is an issue, I love him as a buy. I think he's he'll be a massive pod.
Yeah, Matt.
Jono, I just want to get your thoughts here on the narrative arc of this Bulldogs situation. Like Galvin's, we've had all the drama all season of Galvin, and now we're at the redemption point where he's named in the starting team. They're clearing the decks. They can finally just plant their flag in the ground. They don't have to worry about him on the bench. Does Reed-Marnie like him? Does he not? Where are we? What degree of the curve on the narrative arc are we here? And is it going to end with the Bulldogs premiership?
Geez, I don't think it's ending with the Bulldogs premiership, but I like your general headspace, and I like that you threw to me as kind of the narrative inspector. I think we are going to start to see some more positivity. I think he's going to play good footy. I like Feno's points that he made. I'm actually just a little bit disappointed from a Supercoach perspective because I wanted to see him play the year out New South Wales Cup or off the bench so that we can all pick him up for 350k to start next season. So I was kind of not hoping to see this from a Supercoach perspective. Another bloke who I kind of liked, but I can't quite get around it at his price now. It's Blaize Talagi because I've been looking, I mentioned the Penrith draw, I've been looking for a Penrith option. He's available for 550k. I like what he's doing from a real footy perspective. Matt, what do you think about Blaize? Is he worth a fly with that draw and at that price?
I'd like to own. I'd be happy to own him, but I'm not buying him. Like I said, I've got no interest in buying those guys. He could do really well, but it's just too much of a flyer for me.
Yeah, I just, at that price, like 60k more, you can get Brian Toto himself. Like if you're after a Penrith player in the backline, spend that 60k more to get Big Bad Brian, or spend 30k more and get Dane Gagai at fullback. I just think there's other better value options for me. What about Adam Doueihi, Feno? We were speaking pre-pod how impressed we both were with him playing lock for the Tigers last week in the second half. He's now actually been named to start at lock. 550k, it's a pretty good price if that role pans out.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point there. I don't know whether it's going to be the role for him long term. I think Benji's shuffling the jack chairs each week, so how long is he going to play in that lock role for? I think with limited trades, it's too much of a risk for those with low on trades, and especially playing at the Tigers as well, they're going to finish in the bottom four again. But yeah, I did like what I see him playing in the middle last week, and he's looked a lot better when he's got his hands on the ball. So if we can get him at dual position next year at a bit of a discount, he could start in a few people. Yeah, well, that'd be lovely. But yeah, he might be a bit more of a 2026 option, I think.
Yep, agreed. Let's get on a halfback now. Clearly, the biggest news at halfback was that Nathan Cleary was rested. Very strong to push to people that is arresting. It's not that he's gone worse with his injury that he was coming off Origin for. It's arresting. It is absolutely huge for non-owners. I am a non-owner. Feno's a non-owner. Matt, I know you were really disappointed, but great news for the Run Home Challenge. For those people who don't have him for week one of the Run Home Challenge, it's huge. Feno, I'm going to throw to you as the non-owner because I think it's more interesting to hear from a non-owner than it is an owner. Do you get him back as soon as he's back next week, or does this put any pause on your thoughts of Nathan Cleary and maybe there is more going on they feel they need to rest him for? What do you think?
No, he's 100% straight in for me when he's back in that Panthers side. Look, he played off the bench last week and still bumped out an 80 odd score. I think he's got a bit of redemption, that bit of a redemption story coming out of Origin. I think he's going to want to prove a point. So yeah, he's the number one halfback for me. I know Nico's got a great draw on the way home, but Penrith are fighting for a final spot, and I think a lot of it's going to come off the back of Nathan Cleary. So as soon as he's back starting in that team, he's straight in for me.
Yeah, it's tough. I think you're right, Feno. I'm someone who owns Nico and Jerome Hughes, and I don't really want to bring Cleary into the flex. I'd rather have a fullback with big upside in the flex. Matt, you're a Sharks fan. That role that Nico had on the weekend where he was clearly the dominant playmaker when they're in the attacking hotspots, do you think that's going to continue? Because I've seen it before this year where next week Braden Trindle's he's back and he's ruining everything for the Sharks. Do you think it's going to stick this time?
I mean, I think so. I don't know why it wouldn't. Trindle's been horrendously out of form for 3 months. It's
three years, did you say?
Well, at least I mean he has had a few good games for the Sharks. Tricky. I mean, we're paying him. We chatted about it on the watch along last Thursday. He's paying him $700,000 or $800,000 a year. It's big money, and we expect more out of him, but we're not getting it. So, look, I think Blake Brayley and Nico have struck up a bit of a combination now. Nico's doing a lot of good work off Brayley's go forward momentum that he's getting out of dummy half. So, I think this is I think Cleary and Hines are non-negotiables. Jerome Hughes is a maybe if you want to run one of them in the flex. But I just think with the Storm, trickier run home, the tons of chefs in the kitchen at the Storm, I am prioritising the other two ahead of Hughes. And when I want to bring in that third fullback, I think Hughes will be the one that makes way. And I will say as well that if Storm are wrapping up a top 4 or top 2 spot, Hughes has been carrying a few injuries through the year. And so he'll probably be due a turn for a rest as well at some point, even though, look, that's just all speculation. But I just don't think we're going to see that for Cleary or Hines on the way home.
Fenno, anything to add to Matt's thoughts there?
Yeah, look, I think the three halfbacks, having a halfback in the flex is an option for the next few weeks, definitely with Hughes. I've kind of had a longer look at the draw, and I think there's a period of time where you can get off Jerome Hughes and jump on Latrell around head-to-head finals. Bunny's draw from round 23 onwards is really good. I think they've got the Titans, the Eels, and the Dragons, and I think the Storms draw gets really. They've got Penrith Bulldogs and Roosters and Broncos. So I think there's a period you can run three halfbacks for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and I think there might be an opportunity to jump off Jerome Hughes and jump on that third fullback.
Yeah, well, I think well summarised from the both of you. Let's get on to second row forward now. And this is where a lot of moves are being made because I think the majority of people had Dylan Lucas, who's confirmed to be out for the year. They had him most likely in second row. We're seeing that with the trade-ins because Hudson Young is the most traded in player of the round at 12% of the top 10% bringing him in. I got to say, fellas, I love Hudson Young as a player. I'm a huge fan. I have been for as long as he's been playing rugby league. But I'm not quite seeing it at 750K with that injury cloud hanging over his head, with Raiders potentially going to give him reduced minutes because their forward pack is just so damn deep. Matty, what do you think about this Hudson Young bringing?
Can we call Hudson a friend of the show after he had a bit of a chat to us about his supplements?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Friend of the show,
Look,
Hudson Young.
Friend of the show, Hudson Young. Yeah, look, one less red flag, and I think I'd be close to bringing him in this week. 3 red flags by around 24. Ricky Roulette in the back end of the season. Canberra basically got a top 4 wrapped up. If they get a top 2 wrapped up and he's still carrying a bit of this osteitis pubis and he hasn't got it to settle down, he'll rest. Like, they get Matty Nicholson back. Simi Sasagi's going really well. Zach Hoskin, we know, is doing a good job. So just the 3 combined between the bye, the restings, and the injury is just enough to put me off. I will say, though, that if you've got the balls to do it and it pays off, you could get handsomely rewarded. It's just probably not for me this week.
Yeah, the ownership is low, so I get it. Like, even though he's been brought in by 12%, he was only owned by like 2% prior to this round, obviously through that origin period. Fenno, what do you think about Huddy Young? I think he's worth a big discussion about.
Yeah, look, I think if you've got the cash to go Lucas to him in one trade without doing any other damage to your team, I think it's a great pod play. I'm with Matty. There's too many red flags for me to warrant bringing him in, and I've pretty much got my second row set for the rest of the year. But I think if he's an easy move off Dylan Lucas to him at a pod ownership. Like the fixtures for the Raiders for the next few weeks are great. Like, he could score a hat-trick against Eels this week. Like, he'd be scary to watch if you don't own him this week. So yeah, if you can move to Lucas to him you got a spot in the second row there, I love it. But yeah, there's too many red flags for me to want to bring him in.
I think we're all on the same page there. Let's talk about some of the cheaper replacements and less brought in replacements. One of them is Briton Nikora, who is overall more owned than Hudson Young, but not being brought in by too many this week. Matt, you're the Sharks fan. Give us your insight on Nikora. Is he back or is he just still too inconsistent?
I can't get a read on Nikora this year. Like, he's been up and down with his base power. He's got plenty of attack, like plenty, and we know he gets it. But I think he's actually over-index. Nico loves him. He runs that amazing line. I can't get a full read on Nikora. I think his price is topping out, so it's probably a little bit exy. Yeah, I'm probably a soft no on Nikora.
Fenno, another option is Angus Crichton, who's significantly cheaper. He's only 590K. We saw last year where he was the clear best second row forward in both Rugby League and Supercoach. He only had a 53 last week in 80 minutes. Do you think he's still good value at that price? You're a little bit worried that his form's not there this year.
Yeah, look, I grabbed him last week. And yeah, I just think he's just had no attack at all this year. And I think with Sam Walker back in the team, I think it'll come. And the Roosters are in and around fighting for that 8th spot on the ladder. I just think Sam Walker improves his attack so much. So I know he's being brought in by quite a few people now, but at his price, I much prefer him to a Hudson Young or some of the more higher price people. He's going to be playing 80 minutes every week, and we saw what he did last year I think there's tries around the corner. I think there's a 100+ score coming not too far away. So yeah, pretty happy I got on last week. And yeah, I couldn't talk out of anyone buying him.
Yeah, I agree with you, Fenno. I think for me, he's the best purchase of those three with that price being considered. It's funny because I bet if he scored a try last week and he got 85, 90 points, I bet he's this week the most popular option. Like people are so recency bias in Supercoach. Look, we're all like that in life, but they're just one big score last week. He would have been easily the most purchased this week. So Fenno, I'm with you. He's my pick of the bunch as well. One who this is my actual pick of the bunch because it's Beau Fermor. I am a Beau lever. I've owned him since round 3 this year. I love big bad Beau Fermor. I think he's a really good NRL player. His base plus power has been super impressive this year. He has a 5-round average of 74. So he's in good form at the moment, Beau, playing good footy. He's got that dual position. Matt, do you think he could still be one to take on some of these bigger names?
Absolutely, Johnny. Like, you throw a blanket over all these guys, they're all going to average between 65 and 75, and you just pick the one you like. Like, Fermor could definitely get it done. I think he'll keep the role, even with Fafita back. They got some great matches and a lot of day games, the Titans as well, which is important. We should see some big scores in a few of those, so he's got the upside. I like him better than all those options we spoke about already. I would suggest the only potential better options are maybe some of these big boys who are not as exciting with upside, but the likes of Tino and Aaron Clark.
Yeah, Fenno, none of us at Baller have really been on Aaron Clark. We've all liked him from afar this year. None of us have owned. What, are you an Aaron Clark owner? Or what do you think of him?
I'm not. I'm in your boys' boat. I've not owned him at all this year, and he's just getting it done every week. I thought his score on the weekend, though, was a little bit concerning because he got a line break try assist and still only got 70 odd. So I would have wanted something a little bit higher, I think, up and towards 80 to 90 with and his minutes have been fluctuating a little bit over the last few weeks as well. So like Warriors have got so many good young forwards on the bench coming through, and we've touched on earlier, if they wrap up a top 4 spot, he's an easy candidate to see less minutes on the run home as well. So I don't think I'd be buying him, but you'd be a happy owner.
Yeah, Webby's wheel, we called it, Fenno. Instead of Ricky Roulette, it's Webby's wheel because these minutes are really fluctuating for these forwards and they've got so many good young ones. He's trying to find time for them, so I like it. Tino, I thought, was really impressive on the weekend. He looked to me the best he's looked, other than destroying New South Wales, the best he's looked at Clubland for ages. He was offloading. Every run was damaging. His minutes were down backing up off Origin. I would be shocked if he's not back to 65 to 70 minutes now for the remainder of this season. So I think Matt mentioned him. He's a tremendous buy. Matt, I know that one little pod you like is Jeremiah Nanai, who is priced $500K. Give us your thoughts on him as a pod.
Yeah, I think if you're going to take a flyer, he's a great one. $500K, I think he can match all the options we've spoken about. So really, if he falls in the price point that you're looking at, that you might need to go. Obviously, if you go on Lucas, then you can kind of get the pick of the bunch. But I think if you like Nanai, they've got the buy in 27, so you are a bit exposed to mass restings with him, which is probably his biggest negative. But we saw what he could do earlier in the season. He had some tremendous scores. He'll play 80 minutes, I think, most weeks. I just think if you're feeling a bit adventurous, I don't mind the Nanai play as a pod at $500K.
All right, let's get on to front row forward now. I don't really want to spend too long at this position, fellas, unless any of you have some strong thoughts. The two biggest talking points are probably Addin Fonua-Blake, who's now down to $580K after another disappointing score last week. We've got Joey Tapine, who's also below $600K. His minutes have been really down lately. Fenno, do you have any strong thoughts on either of those players?
Yeah, look, I think if you got both, you probably just hold as the third, fourth front rower for the run home. I think if you were going to sell Taps, you would have sold him last week when he was on the bye. I know he's still got another bye to come, but he's an easy. I don't think I'd be playing him many weeks on the run home, given Ricky Roulette. But if Terrell May or Payne Haas have a 1 week injury or a HIA, I think he's an easy plug in if needed. So he'll be my third front rower for the run home, and I'm happy to hold for the rest of the season and play in a pinch.
Fenno, just to clarify, when you said if you own both, you don't mean actually owning both. You mean like one or the other?
No, sorry. Yeah, one or the other, yeah.
Gotcha. Because I say if you own both, I would actually make a move. But if you own one of the other...
100%, yeah.
I agree.
You don't want four front rowers.
All right, let's get on to hooker then. And one of the most purchased last week was Connor Watson. who I was one who brought him in last week. I thought he looked pretty good his first game in. I feel really confident that he's going to continue to get big minutes, even in a really deep, talented forward pack. Matt, are you a kind of Watson owner? I think you got him last week too.
Yeah, I did reluctantly, Jono. I didn't want to trade at hooker, but I had to, just given the way the cards fell. I had to trade Sandon Smith, who was obviously going to have to go, but I would have preferred that to be this week or maybe next week, or not at all. Who knows? Tommy Starling could have done a good job for me against the Eels this week. He'll be riding the pine though at this stage. Yeah, I was not overwhelmed with Watson's performance, but if we're going to get 56 in a game where he plays 80 minutes at hooker, then and that's the worst we're going to get, and that's fine. But with Roosters forwards back on deck now, all their middles and these young forwards doing so well, I'm really concerned that we're not going to see many lock minutes. And once we stop seeing the lock minutes, then it just becomes downside on his hooker minutes as well. So we could start seeing some 65 minutes at hooker only games, which becomes very problematic. If I was buying, I'm not sure I'd want to buy Watson just yet. That's how I would feel this week.
What about Blake Brayley, Fenno? He's obviously the form hooker of both Supercoach and real footy. He's in tremendous form at the moment, getting out of the line, getting the opposition on the back foot. Matt mentioned earlier how much that's helped Nico. Do you think he's a genuine option at 660K?
I'd definitely be looking at him if he was a similar price to Grant and Watson. I just think he's a little bit more, a bit of a higher price at the moment. So I much prefer Grant and Watson as a bit of a discount. But yeah, look, he looks so good his running game's ignited Nico's running game. So yeah, look, if you own him, I don't think I'd be moving to Watson or Grant. I think I'd be happy to run Brayley. But yeah, I just think at the price, I think I prefer Watson or Grant.
Yeah, I can't get around Blake Brayley at all. Like, Harry Grant is nearly 90K cheaper than Blake Brayley. There is no way if I'm making a move at hooker this week, which a few people are. I think Harry Grant's currently 2.5% purchased, Blake Brayley 2.3% purchased in that top 10%. There is no way I'm looking at Blake Brayley over Harry Grant with that price difference. No. I can't believe how under-discussed Harry Grant is. Like, I've actually been really impressed by his actual footy form over the last couple of weeks. I think he had that hamstring injury. He came back slowly. I think both at club level and origin level, his form has been awesome. He almost crashed over for a try on the weekend. He was just held up short of the line. And again, like mentioning with Angus Crichton, if he crosses over for that try and he scores 90, again, I bet heaps more people are bringing him in this week. Matt, you're not as positive on Grant as I am.
No, and I'm more positive on Brayley. Like, the good thing about Brayley is he's lifted his base whilst looking more attacking with his role. So I can see why people are excited. He's gone 102, 97, 48, 117. Like, they are elite numbers. And he's never been that type of player. So that stinks of a role change. You can see it with your eyes. I can really see why people are getting around Brayley. And if I was buying hooker this week, I would 100% be buying Brayley, even at the price. Harry Grant, Jono, I'm just worried about these rests, and I don't think it's the same Harry Grant as we've seen in previous seasons. Like, the base output's not there, in the same vein as we've seen previously. And I get why people are appealed, because it's Harry Grant and he's been the best hooker for a long time in the game. But I just don't think he's the option this year, and especially when you throw in the trickier draw and plus the potential for a rest.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to agree to disagree on that one, Matt. We'll see how it all plays out. What about Jeremy Marshall-King, Fenno as a pod? He's only 490K. I know Matt's a big fan. What are your thoughts?
Not as much. I'm not very high on the Dolphins. I know they've overperformed this year, the Dolphins. They've beat up a few teams recently, but I think their injuries are going to catch up with them at some stage. Like, their draw's okay on the run home. I've had a look at it before. But yeah, I think I'd be trying to find a way to get up to Grant or Watson. I'm not overly keen on Jeremy Marshall-King, and he's got injury history as well, which worries me. Like, can find an injury. So, with limited trades, I wouldn't want to get him in my team and then have to get him back out again.
Yeah. And looks like there might be a hooker on the bench this week, Matt.
Is there? Let's have a quick look, Jono. Give me a sec.
Producer Grahamsy's put in the chat that Harrison Graham.
Yep. So that probably kills JMK as an option.
Yeah, it does. I think it puts a line through him, unfortunately. Speaking of blokes who've had a line put through them, for anyone who's still holding Sandon Smith, Hugo Savala got injured. That gave people some hope that maybe Sandon would come back into the team. The great Chad Townsend has been named as the preferred 5'8" over Sandon Smith this week. Surely there's something like Sandon must be about to be announced that he's signing with a new club or something. I just can't see any world in which you would pick Chad here. Matt, you're a long-term Chad hater, which is purely because you're a Sharks fan. What's going on?
Hey, Chad's been getting the reps in on the Chad Townsend show, pumping out the content there weekly or bi-weekly, I'm not too sure, but I've seen a lot of it on socials. He Sandon well out of favour. That's bizarre. It must have something to do with role, like Trent doesn't trust Sam Walker's kicking game or something. Just while we're talking about random non-relevant Supercoach players, I do want to give a big shout out to my man Oren Keeley, who we might see a big increase in minutes this week, Jono. So watch along on Friday night. There'll be a Thursday night. There'll be a ton of Oren content, no doubt, there with Finafuiaki going down.
I told you, Matt. I don't want to hear his name. I reckon if you mention him too much in that watch along, I'm rage quitting the watch along if he comes up too many times. Sick of Oren. We might need. Speaking
of the watch along, we might need to see if Chad's up for a bit of a collab, and we can build a bridge and get over it, so to speak.
All right, I'd love to see that. You and Chad on the same pod. I'd be just chipping away in the comments of all the nasty things you've said about him over the years, trying to get him to call you out on it.
I'll tell you what, the Twitter account would need a cleanse.
All right, that brings our position analysis out to a close, and we're going to get into a bit of captain's chat now. I think this was becoming a really tough week for captaincy selections with Nathan Cleary owners this week with their matchup against Souths. I think the Cleary out has cleared things up a little bit for those people, because I reckon it's a little bit simpler now. Fenno, where are you currently leaning towards being your VC and C options in your team? What do you think?
I've got three that I'm looking at as a VC, and that's Herbie Farnworth, obviously against playing the Cowboys on Thursday night at home. He kills it at Suncorp. He's got a great average there, and he's one of the focal points of their attack. The other two I'm looking at are playing the first game on Friday night, which is Roosters vs Sharks. So I'm looking at Nicho Hynes and James Tedesco. I've got pretty good squad depth at the moment, so I'm happy to have Teddy as a VC again this week. Because I think the masses will he'll probably be the most captain player. So I don't hate putting the VC on him. And then, I've got a few options. If I go Brian To'o, I don't hate him as a captain option this week against that Rabbitohs edge. So if I go bring him in and Teddy goes sub 70, I could look at throwing the C on Brian To'o.
Jeez, wouldn't that be a pod play, Matt? What do you think about captains this week?
That would be huge. That's the stuff. That's the stuff that they build statues for in Supercoach land, Fenno. Really hard week. Really hard. Herbie's the obvious one. Thursday night. I did like Drinky as a VC option. I would be going Drink. I'm just this Purdue stuff really worries me. He's like, we see the stats: 57 average with Purdue at 5'8", 93 average without Purdue at 5'8", and that's a good sample, 6 games and 11 games. So it has to be a concern, and it's probably going to keep the VC off for me. I completely agree with Fenno. I think Teddy is a great anti-pod captain opportunity this week to take him on with someone like Nicho in that game. So I'm going to be looking heavily at Nicho. Nick Meaney, probably not. I think it's a really hard week. Nico is probably going to be really on my radar for a C with maybe Herbie VC at this stage.
That just felt like another chance for you to mention Nick Meaney and that you own him, because there's no way why are we talking about him there? You're not going to captain Nick Meaney.
He's my favourite player.
I'm pretty clear cut this week, fellas. I'm going the VC on Herbie. I do like Drinky. I thought about him, but those numbers that Matt's quoting, I think, make it clear for me with that whole Purdue thing. And I'm going the C on Teddy. I don't want to anti-pod him. I don't think it's the right play. I understand the Nicho temptation, though. I think there's a little bit of merit in that. Right, let's get on to our final segment of the show. It's time for our pod of the week. Matt, who are you looking at as your pod of the week?
Mate, my pod of the week is, and I hate doing this because I can already hear the people getting stuck into me, or you're just chasing last week's points. But Jayden Sewer is 584K with a minus 15 break even, coming off a monstrous 126, I think, or so on the weekend. That's backed up. He got the week before, he scored an 88. He's got a 3-round average of 84 and a 3-round base power average of 61. So those are great underlying numbers. He's got a great role, 80 minutes on the edge there. He's a focal point for that right side attack. I think if you're looking at these guys, I think he is as good as any as a buy in the 2RF. So I would be looking very, very strongly at Jayden Sewer as a Dylan Lucas replacement.
I can't stand Jayden Sewer. Like, I'm just talking about from an actual footy watching perspective. You can quote numbers at me for days about Jayden Sewer. He's not passing the eye test. He lost South the 2020 grand final and was at least a big part of us losing that grand final. And I just don't enjoy watching him play footy. One week he's Sonny B. Williams. The next week he's me in the under-11s, soft and throwing unnecessary offloads.
Footy John doesn't like it.
No, Footy John hates it. Fenno, I like your pot of the week significantly better than Matt's.
Yeah, my pot of the week is Dallin Watini-Zelezniak. Coming off an 83 last week. He is only 350k. The Warriors fixtures for the remainder of the season are fantastic. They only play one top 4 team on the way home, which is the Dogs, who don't look as good as they did at the start of the year. I don't think you have to play him every week. I think if you have Dylan Lucas in the centre wing and want to free up a second trade, if you go Dylan Lucas down to Dallin, and that enables you to get like a Hudson Young or something like that in the second row, I love that as an option. And you can play him on those friendlier matchups on the way home. And we saw what he did 2 years ago. Like, he went on a massive try-scoring run, and I can see it happening again.
Yeah, I'm all in on this one with you, Fenno. He was actually my little black book player on the Sunday Snap this week. He's a guy who's been over 700k in the past. Now, I do think, whilst Matt mentioned some kind of knocks against Tanah Boyd from a Supercoach scoring perspective earlier, I actually really like the stability he brings to that Warriors right edge. I think there's going to be a lot less off-the-cuff, dummy and go stuff and more set plays, and I think that could benefit him. I reckon if you're someone who's looking at going enough as your 7th centre wing spot, if you can go that little bit extra money and go to DWZ and hold him as a 7th centre wing run-home player, I don't mind it at all. So I'm into that, Fenno. My pot of the week is one that we saved, who we wanted to talk about a little bit more in depth, because he's going to be a really relevant option. I am actually bringing in this pot of the week. I think it's criminal that he is a pot of the week. He's too good to be this, but it's Latrell Mitchell, who is currently 645k. He's only in 2.7% of Supercoach teams. He's 1.6% owned. I don't understand why more people aren't flocking to Trell. I'm going to hit you guys with a few stats about Latrell and why I think he's such a good option. So Latrell, as a goal-kicking fullback in his career, is averaging 79.8 from 48 games. Now, can I just say how much I hate as a South fan that he's only played 48 games over the last 4 seasons since he's been a goal-kicking fullback. But the average is the average, 79.8. Why are more people not discussing Trell? Why is he not one of the most purchased players this week? I don't get it, fellas.
I think, Jono, I really like Trell, but I don't like it this week against Penrith. Ball projection 65. And if we look beyond this week, from around 21 to 27, his ball projection is 77. So it's a big difference. So I'm going to be eyeing off Trell as a pod next week. But we talked about it, like getting on the week early can be the difference, Jono. And if he can crack out a big score this week, then you're off to the races. So I respect it.
I like him a lot more now that, like you just touched on, that Yeo and Cleary aren't playing this week. I think I touched on a little bit earlier my plans with Latrell. I'm eyeing off Jerome Hughes to him in a couple of weeks. But yeah, I don't hate getting on him this week. And like we've touched on earlier, it's that if you get on that 1 week early and he bangs out a big 100 and no one's on him, it can shoot you up the rankings. So yeah, like I like him a lot more now that Cleary and Yeo aren't playing this week.
All right, well, I'm hoping it pans out more like what myself and Fenno have said and less of what Matt was saying with that matchup this week. Fellas, that pretty much brings us out to a close. I just want to give another quick plug for the Thursday Q&A pod, which is obviously going to be on this week with Maddie and Dan. So make sure you get in your social media questions for those guys across any platform. They'll compile them and they'll answer and give you some expert feedback. And the watch along Thursday night, it's going to be Matt, myself, and Tubes. Going to be a great Supercoach matchup, a lot of relevance there. I'd say nearly everyone's going to have a VC player probably in that matchup as well, so super relevant. And if you're home watching the footy on a Thursday night, it's just like watching the footy with mates. I know I'm always someone who just spends the whole footy game texting about Supercoach anyway, so why not jump on board, feel like you're a part of that with us and chuck some stuff in the live comment section. Fenno, thanks for making your baller debut, mate. How have you enjoyed the pod?
It's been a pleasure, lads. Thanks for having me on. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And yeah, if you have me back at any stage, I'd love to jump back on.
On your Fenno. We'll
Thanks,
get you back
mate.
for sure, mate. Thank you.
Matty, you got anything else for us?
No, mate, I'm just basking in my Nick Meaney glow. Long may it continue, and looking forward to round 20.
So, Matt, what you were meant to do there was say "you beauty," so we'll just try that one again. Thank you for mentioning Nick Meaney again, though, to bring out the pod. Hey, Matt, you got anything else for us?
Go, Nick Meaney. You beauty.